central idea. In 1997, Universal Studios faced their first big hurdle brought to them by Halloween Horror Nights. And it was not something that you would have normally expected, neither did our marketing department expect. But in 1997, there was a billboard plastered all over Orlando that had a picture of something that parents did not find very amusing. It was a green gremlin with somebody's eyelid pulled up with him biting on it with one drop of blood coming down from it. The city was outraged by it. Universal Studios wasn't truly affected too much because, listen, we put it through our code enforcement, we put it through our legal department, it came out clean. They wanted us to change it. Needless to say, we didn't change it. People started to have their dislikes about Halloween Horror Nights. Eventually Universal Studios came out and said, hey, it's like having the Super Bowl in Orlando. We draw thousands and thousands and thousands of people here. They spend their money. The city kind of calmed down about that for a little bit. The next big hurdle that Halloween Horror Nights faced, of course, was in 2001, right before our event kicked off. Of course, we had the tragedies of 9/11. That year, we were supposed to have this psychomaniac, Chainsaw Eddie, was supposed to be our icon that year. The name of our event was supposed to be the Intensive Care Unit, and it was supposed to be just really the most gruesome, gory event that we had ever done. Basically, Chainsaw Eddie was going to be running through the streets, just hacking up people. We were going to have more blood than we had ever done before, more gory than anything we've ever done before. And of course, then that probably looked like nothing to what we have now. But that was supposed to be our wham. You know, the biggest thing. We were blasting it all over the place. And then, of course, the events of 9/11 happened. Does anybody know what we did that year to change that?
Changed everything red to green.
Very good. We changed everything that was blood into a green goo, or a green slime, almost like a yak material. And that was kind of our way to dull down the event. We took out Chainsaw Eddie as our icon. We brought Jack back. Jack Schmidt was our first ever ginormous icon that we created, and he was absolutely huge. People loved him, so we actually brought him back the next year and wound up using him again. We made it through 2001. That was a very shaky year for us. Universal actually lost some money during Halloween Horror Nights that year. But the next year came back even stronger, and that brought us continuing forward from 2001. Then we came up to our Sweet 16 party, which absolutely went off with a bang. It was absolutely a huge event. We had brought back our 4 prior icons that we had created. We had our caretaker, we had Jack Schmidt once again, we had the director, and we had the storyteller, and people absolutely loved it. We had a great Bill and Ted show that year. The whole event was extremely, extremely huge, and that was very good for us. The next year in 2007, we had some very big things once again happen. Does anything know what happened in 2007?
Big new line characters.
The new line characters came in. What about something bigger than that? Anything bigger than that happened in the year 2007? I started working here. Yes, we had a New Line Cinema for the first time. We actually had a whole different movie production instead of just Universal Pictures actually jump on board with Halloween Horror Nights, and obviously that's opened the doors huge for us. The New Line Cinema characters of Freddy, Jason, and Leatherface worked very good that year for us. We had, of course, a house based on each one of them, and that brought us up to now to where we are extremely using other people's property, as we have teamed up with Lionsgate this year, and we have teamed up with Twisted Pictures, and of course Universal Pictures' own with our Benicio del Toro version of the Wolfman, and taking Twisted Pictures' Saw. So that was a very big thing, and Lionsgate thanking them for the use of Chucky. So we have, of course, those main 3 people that was plastered everywhere this year that people know of. But who is our actual icon this year? The Usher, very good. Does anybody know his actual name? Julian Browning, very good. And Julian Browning, of course, plays a huge part. I'll let it, he can tell me. Julian Browning plays a huge part in this year's event. Does anybody know where Julian Browning worked? The Universal Palace Theater, very good. The Universal Palace Theater opened in 1922, and as you have heard many of times before, Julian believed that the Universal Palace Theater was a proud and dignified lady that demanded the proper respect. And and rude behavior would never be tolerated, and it was his job, very good ever, rude behavior would not be tolerated, and it was his job to make sure that that happened. Julian Browning absolutely loved the films. What was his favorite movie? Phantom of the Opera. Julian Browning loved to be there, loved that place. He treated it like a home. He was there for well over 20 years. About 20 years actually after opening of the Palace Theater, there was a showing of the Phantom of the Opera. It was going on, and he was just making his normal rounds, walking around, cleaning up, ushering people to their seats. He went to the theater, just a routine, just making sure everything was going okay, and he actually came in contact with an unruly patron. That unruly patron was doing things to the unliking of Julian Browning. This patron was being unruly, he wasn't being very nice. Julian said, "Listen, sir, if you can calm down, everything will be okay. If not, I'm going to have to ask you to leave." Well, Julian went about his business. A few minutes later, he noticed that this guy was doing the same thing over and over again. So he went to the guy, he went to usher him out of the theater, and this patron had done something that nobody had ever done to Julian before. He took his most prized possession, his silver flashlight, and threw it right through the silver screen, making an enormous tear in the silver screen. Julian finally got the man out of the theater. He waited till the Phantom of the Opera had finished, and he went backstage to repair this, a normal thing. Just wanted to make sure that it was repaired, just to go on about his business, get his flashlight back. Now, before the Universal Palace was a movie theater, it was an opera house. And then when they were opera houses, there was all kinds of lighting and rigging and things backstage. Julian wasn't particularly familiar with those things. All he knew is that he had to make sure that that got fixed. So he goes backstage, he finds his flashlight, he props up his ladder. He is fixing the silver screen when he loses his balance and falls off the ladder. And at that time, Julian Browning met his untimely demise as he hung there lifeless. And now, a few years ago, we can only assume that Julian Browning, his body, cohabitates up with the Palace Theater, that it lurks the Palace Theater at night. Even rumors have been told that you can see the Palace Theater coming back to life every once in a while. But just a few years ago at the Palace Theater, they were attempting to bring it back in an uproar. And there was a double feature going on at the Palace Theater. Does anybody know what was showing that night?
Frankenstein and Dracula?
Not Frankenstein and Dracula. It was a double feature of The Strangers and The Phantom of the Opera. Now, during the first film of The Strangers, the manager of the Palace Theater had come in contact with 7 unruly teenagers. They were being extremely rude, throwing gummy bears at the screen, all those things that us silly kids have done at one point in time. But he's asking these young kids to please just calm down, relax, sit down, enjoy your movie, or once again, I will have to ask you to leave. The kids sit down, they become quiet. No, never thought anything of it. The kids come out, they all go to the lobby, they get their snacks and come back to watch the Phantom of the Opera. Once again, the manager realizes that he hasn't had to go in. He figured out it's an older film, it's in black and white. Maybe they just left, they didn't want to see it. The film finishes up, he's sending his crews in, they're cleaning up, getting everything done, everybody leaves. He flips on the lights, he is resetting the camera reel when he looks at the screen, and what hangs behind the screen is 7 teenagers' lifeless bodies hanging behind the silver screen. He goes back to investigate, and he finds an 8th body, and whose 8th body is that? Julian Browning's 8th body. And complete gray clothing is hanging there. And that scene can be seen inside of our house silver screens. As you will see the poster of the Phantom of the Opera for the second time, and you will walk in, and they will be hanging there. And that is what leads us up to our event this year, with Julian Browning, our usher, being our icon, and our 3 main stages behind him, leading the way into this year's event. Of course, this year with Saw, Chucky, and Wolfman, we have done so many big things this year, so many things that we've done for our first. Actually, Saw in that house, all the voices that you hear are actually Tobin Bell's voice. He came back and voiced over our entire event. He wouldn't do a video game, but he came back and voiced over all of our commercials and our entire event. How many people have seen the commercial? Halloween Horror Nights, very good. The Billy and the Chucky in that commercial are the real thing. They are the real ones that were actually used in the movie. That was shot in LA, and they actually pulled them from their archives in LA, which was a lot easier than bringing them all the way to here to shoot it. So they shot it in LA, so those are the real things there. Now, The Wolfman, of course, is a movie that has been pushed back several times. Originally it was supposed to open a few months ago, then it was supposed to open just a month ago, then it was supposed to open in the middle of October. Now it is set to open in February of next year. With that in mind, it was extremely pertinent that Universal Pictures gave us as much as they could, which they did. They gave us all the rights to use whatever we wanted to inside of that house. They actually gave us makeup stills, they gave us stills from the photography, they gave us stills from the actual movie shoot, they gave us backdrop settings and stone settings, all kinds of things. And one of my favorite things is that actually inside of the house, all the things that you hear, all the screams, all the bones cracking, all the roars, all the howls of the Wolfman is actually from the movie. So when you see that movie, all those sounds that you heard in the house will actually be inside of that movie. With that mentioned, we are going to see 3 houses today. We are going to see the Wolfman, Frankenstein, and Dracula will be the 3 houses that we walk through. Now, we cannot take any pictures or videos inside of the Wolfman. We can absolutely have none of those in there, and that is strict, strict, strict. We cannot have anything in there. Once we come out of there and we walk into Frankenstein and Dracula, you guys can take as many pictures as you so wish. I will point out some pretty cool areas that I've found that people enjoy taking pictures at. If any time you guys have any questions, sometimes it's hard to hear me inside the houses, it's stretched out in those long hallways. Just ask me anything that you want to know, anything that you can see, anything that I don't point out that you want to know about. You know what? We put fog boxes every 10 feet away from each other. We pump an immense amount of fog in here, throw some green lighting in it, and we call it containment. Basically what's going on here is that there's a biological chemical warfare being released into the air. It's a chemical agent that is deteriorating your skin, causing you to have dry mouth, all these different things as you walk through here. And as you can see when you walk through here at night, there's all kinds of different levels of this disease going around. But basically, we wanted to have a fog backstory, so we created somewhat of a backstory for it. So people finally got what they wanted with the fog backstory. So it's a lot. Did they use well, I thought you just went to Alright guys, from this point until we walk into Frankenstein, I need you to put all the cameras and video cameras away. We can't have anything on behind these black gates because this is our production facility. But once we walk into Frankenstein, you guys can open them back up and take as many pictures as you like. One-off pictures. As we make our way to the front of Frankenstein, not Frankenstein's castle, who's seen Mary Shelley's Frankenstein or the Bride of Frankenstein? What happens at the end of the Bride of Frankenstein?
Castle burns down.
Castle blows up. Very good. As you notice, the original entrance to the castle is no longer in working order because the castle has been blown up. Do we know why the castle was blown up? To kill Frankenstein's original monster. Very good. The doctor realized that finally he has no control over his monsters. He is really not doing a good job keeping him under wraps. So, heck, the bride and him, we'll just blow them up. Whatever, we don't like him. We'll just blow him up. I'll start all over again. This takes place about a month and a half after the Bride of Frankenstein. The building is actually still smoldering in its own dust and collateral and heat and flames. So when you come in, you will see that most of the top of this looks burnt and charred, and it looks like it's still embering and burning when you first come into the house for the first time to see scene 0, or the facade scene. Of course, the front doors have been bombarded. One of my favorite things about this house is the attention to detail. You will notice that the house has been literally stitched back together. As we walk through, you'll see these stitchings, these different forms that the doctor has created to stitch this house back together, which looks extremely cool all throughout the house, the different type of bracing. But the doctor has been so nice enough to build us up some scaffolding and create us a small doorway for us to enter into Castle Frankenstein. So let's go ahead and go inside.
Oh, yeah.
Body parts and Chris, did you get a picture this way?
This scene right here, of course, this is where you do see that projection. And he picks up the doctor and throws him. Right here is where you come in contact with your first alpha. Now, when the doctor came back, he did not want to have any remnants of his original monster, so he has renamed all of his characters by the Greek alphabet. So alpha, beta, omega. Alpha being the original Frankenstein's monster, and beta being the bride of Frankenstein. When you first see him. But this is the first time I like that. When you come into this house, the first scene, of course, you're getting a nice good scare. All of these characters in this house that play any of the Frankenstein's monster have to be 6'5" or taller. So they are very big, ginormous looking creatures walking around here. Yes, they do. A lot, and not drastically till the end, but the last like 5 monsters you see are completely different. Right here, you see some more of that stitch work. It looks really cool. Some rebar holding it together here. You see that the wires have just been chucked over the walls, trying to get them into different places of the castle. Because, of course, the castle has been so destroyed that he had to just throw his wires over there.
Oh, thank you, sir.
Over here, you're going to see one of the doctor's coolest things. This is a dictaphone. This dictaphone we got off a popular internet website where you buy old things and new things for cheap prices. I did not say that, you did. In here, this dictaphone, we got it. It was in working order, which I thought was really cool. We probably paid way too much for it to destroy it. But we did have to destroy it so that we could put a microphone in it, a speaker in it, so it will sound like the doctor's actual journals. This was the doctor's favorite area, his favorite nasty, disgusting chair, and his gruel that he was eating. So it gives us the faction that he was probably just here, just not too long ago. If you guys will focus on this bookshelf right here, you will notice there's some Easter eggs in here that I like to talk about. Beginning with this hand. This hand does not belong in Dracula's, Frankenstein's house. Where does this hand belong?
Saw.
Very good. It belongs in Saw. The 5th movie, they have to stick their hand into a saw blade. This should be inside of Saw. So this is probably one of those things where they were like, we need a hand. We need a messed up hand. Give me a hand. So, literally. So they brought in just a hand. Up here, I think it's funny that this gorilla up here is missing his right arm. It's chilling over there. That was one of the doctor's original new creations. He is trying to figure out how that works. But that's not his arm. That is the gorilla that is over here, his arm. But I think that they broke his arm off on purpose. You'll see some other nasty things, some actual real bones in this jar right here. A head over here. A skinned cat for somebody to eat later. One of my favorite things is this pig snout.
Oh, that's good.
And I will mention why a little bit later, but keep mentioning this pig snout here. I don't know what it is with art and design and pigs, but there is a pig, yeah, fishing lures. There is a pig in every house this year. Some part of a pig in every house. And there's your pig snout here. Of course, in Saw, we have pigmen all over the place. Here's one of the doctor's newest things that he's working on, trying to figure out how this guy works. Did anybody see the Bill and Ted sneak-in video?
Yeah. Yes.
It's Frankenstein, dude. Right here is that wolf that gorilla that everybody saw going, is that King Kong? No, it's not King Kong. He's too short to be King Kong. But he's just been working on him here. You can see a mineral grinder over here, some heart pieces laying in here, and some actual old equipment that they would have used back then, working on all this stuff over here. Right here is the first time you come in contact with the doctor. This is one of those areas where he can walk back and forth through here and get you multiple times as well.
Off there, he's coming out of there. Yeah.
Slow.
Yeah.
Right here.
They destroy it. Oh, I want to do something.
They will work, and he will put them in things like Sigma over here, who has a fresh beating heart inside of him. And if they don't, he will just feed him to his assistant, which we will see. We'll see his little place a little bit later. But he will feed them to his assistant. Does anybody fans of the park know where these orbs came from? Kind of little. Not Van Helsing. Nope. Anybody else know where they came from? They came from a restaurant that is no longer.
Mythos?
Not Mythos. You're close.
The Enchanted Oak?
The Enchanted Oak.
Nabisco?
Very good. They came from Enchanted Oak.
Nabisco?
There's the heart.
Right here. Oh, look at all those globes up there. I didn't notice that. Look at this fart.
Right here, I like to put this out. Everybody obsesses over Van Helsing. This was actually in the Van Helsing movie. Who's that?
Oh, I didn't know he was only half a body.
Creating a loud noise, supposed to emit a good scare. A lot of people like to take a picture with this guy too, so if you want to take a picture with him, feel free. Once again, we're hitting you with that misdirection. There's somebody standing over here with that guy, and then there's a blue door right here. Blue door right here.
What?
There's two heads up here. I think they're kind of funny because it looks like they're making out. I don't know why, but it's a little gross and creepy. Right here, as you make your way through here, we're also going to see some more of that stitch work coming through here. Some more of that patching going on.
Thank you. Smile.
Oh, that came out great. Yeah, there we go.
Okay, so you gotta get one from this doorway. Wide angle.
Perfect. Get the handstand. That's awesome.
From the wide angle.
Let me grab you in it.
You want to be in?
Oh, the stitch work.
What house is this from?
Body collectors?
Body Collectors, very good. That was the first time we did this. That seemed to work pretty well. We actually have a person laying here. He sticks his leg through a hole, puts his knee into this area right here. Looks like he's getting his leg chopped off because this one's still moving. Gives you the appearance of it being a real leg. Last year, we did come into a little bit of a problem because the saw that the guy is using here is actually a real saw, real hacksaw. So in here, there was a piece of rebar last year, and we had the problem that we kept cutting through it. Got a problem, we kept cutting through it. So this year, we put some reinforced steel in there for him to hack on, and I don't even see a dent in that thing. So I don't think he's going to cut through it this year. But this is a very cool effect, and with him yelling and screaming, and then once again, gotta love the misdirection. That hole right there, you will see another one of the Frankenstein monsters come from right there. So another great misdirection.
What, you want a picture of that one?
Oh, here's where there's saw in the leg.
Mhm. My God, the amount of detail. Look at this.